The desert wind moved across the open ground like a living thing, carrying dust and heat and something far heavier. At the center of that emptiness knelt a young woman who had already survived more than most people could imagine. Her name was Ioni, 25 years old, and her wrists and ankles had been chained for 3 long years, not by enemies, not by settlers, by her own tribe. Her only crime had been saying no. The tribal elders gathered around her in a half-circle, their faces hard and unreadable under the burning sun. They had watched her fall, watched her break, and watched her rebuild herself in silence. Not one of them looked at her with mercy. Not one seemed to feel shame. Cyrus Monroe, the tribal leader, stood at the center. He carried himself like a man who believed every decision he made was sacred truth. His headdress caught the light as he addressed the crowd, but Ioni didn't raise her head to meet his gaze. She had memorized every face that voted to chain her. She didn't need to look again. Beyond the gathering, a lone rider appeared over the ridge. His horse moved steady and calm, as if neither heat nor danger could hurry it. The man riding it sat tall in the saddle. Harlon Briggs, a rancher known for his independence, his quiet nature, and the land he protected with stubborn pride. He had come only for a land negotiation. Nothing more. The tribe wanted to discuss grazing rights and water access. He expected a meeting, a handshake, maybe an argument. He did not expect to find a woman bound in iron in the middle of a ceremony. Ioni lifted her head for a moment when the stranger arrived. Their eyes met across the dusty space, and something flickered inside her chest. Not hope. She had forgotten hope. But recognition. He didn't know her story. He didn't carry 3 years of judgment in his expression. His eyes held surprise, and something else she hadn't seen in a long time. Something like anger on her behalf. Harlon dismounted slowly, taking in the scene before him. His voice stayed even as he greeted Cyrus, but his eyes kept drifting back to the kneeling woman. "I was told this was a meeting about water access," he said. "Didn't know it involved people?" Cyrus gestured toward Ioni like she was nothing more than a tool. "We have other matters to settle. Your people want access to the northern river. We want resolution to old debts." Ioni's stomach dropped. She already knew the truth. She wasn't part of the negotiation. She was the negotiation. 3 years in chains, and now she was being traded like cattle. Harlon studied her longer this time. "What did she do?" "She defied sacred law," Cyrus replied, "refused a union that would have strengthened our tribe. Her punishment is just." Ioni held Harlon's gaze. She didn't look away. She wanted him to see her strength, not her fear. Harlon didn't answer immediately. The silence stretched until it felt like the sun itself was waiting. Finally he spoke. "I came to talk about land, not people." "She is not people," Cyrus said. "She is property of the tribe." Something changed in Harlon's expression then. Not anger, not pity, something deeper, something that made Ioni's breath catch. "I'll take her," he said. The words fell heavy in the dust. Ioni's heart lurched. Not relief, not fear, just shock. 3 years of chains, and in a single sentence, her life shifted direction. Cyrus signaled a young man forward with a leather pouch. Inside was a crude map showing river access and grazing boundaries. The deal was done. Ioni had been traded away like a burden her tribe wanted to forget. But when Harlon walked toward her, he did not reach for her like she was livestock. He knelt beside her, lowering himself into the dirt, looking her in the eyes. "Can you walk?" he asked quietly. The question almost broke her. No one had asked her anything in 3 years. "Yes," she whispered. Harlon worked on the shackles around her ankles. His jaw tightened when he saw the scarring. He didn't yank or pull. He handled the metal with slow precision, removing them piece by piece. When the weight fell away, she almost collapsed from the sudden freedom. He steadied her only when she almost tripped, then stepped back to give her space. She looked at him with uncertain eyes. He wasn't saving her. He didn't even know her. But he was giving her something she hadn't had in years. Choice. "You're free now," Cyrus said behind them. "Do with her what you will." "She's not mine," Harlon answered, his voice firm. "No one owns people." He led her toward his horse and cut the bindings from her wrists. The first breath she took with free arms filled her chest like air she had never tasted before. "Drink," he said, handing her his canteen. The water hit her throat like a gift. "We're leaving," he said. "Can you ride?" Ioni nodded. She would rather die trying than show weakness in front of the people who tried to break her. Harlon pulled her onto the horse behind him, and for the first time in 3 years, the world moved beneath her without chains. She didn't look back as they rode away. But she felt their eyes on her, and she knew one thing with chilling certainty. Her people were not done with her. Not yet. The ride to Harlon's ranch took 2 long hours across open land that felt too wide, too quiet, too free. Ioni sat behind him without touching him, her hands gripping the saddle instead of his waist. She didn't trust anyone. Not yet. The wind lifted her hair, brushing it across her face, and each mile put more distance between her and the place where she had lost everything. When they reached the ranch, it wasn't much. A single cabin, a small stable, a corral with a few horses. Nothing fancy, nothing soft. It looked like a place built by a man who didn't need more than the bare essentials to survive. Harlon dismounted first and held out his hand again. This time she took it without hesitation. Her legs trembled when she touched the ground. 3 years in chains had weakened her muscles, and she almost fell. Harlon didn't grab her. He didn't rush toward her. He just stayed near, ready to help if she asked. "You're free to leave whenever you want," he said gently. "I'm not keeping you here." The words should have comforted her, but they only left her confused. Freedom wasn't something she remembered. Freedom wasn't simple. "Where would I go?" she asked quietly. Harlon didn't answer right away. He pointed toward the cabin instead. "Inside, there's food, water, a bed. Rest first. Tomorrow we'll figure out what comes next." Ioni followed him inside, keeping her distance. The cabin felt strangely safe, even though her nerves were on fire. Harlon lit a fire and pointed toward a small room at the back. "That room is yours if you want it. The door locks from the inside." That small detail hit her harder than anything that day. A lock she controlled. A lock that kept others out, not her in. Her throat tightened, and she nodded. Hours passed in silence. She stared out a window, watching the vast land stretch into the horizon. Then she heard hooves. Not one. Many. A sound she would never forget. The sound of people coming with purpose, not peace. She rushed to the front room. Harlon was already there, rifle in hand, but pointed at the floor. His face was tight, his jaw set. "Stay inside," he said. Ioni didn't move from his side. A group of riders formed a half circle in front of the ranch. 12. Maybe 15. Enough to overwhelm one man easily. Cyrus was at the center. The same men who once voted to chain her flanked him. Cyrus called out, "We have come to reclaim what belongs to us." Harlon stepped forward. "We had an agreement. I held my end." "The council has decided the agreement is void," Cyrus said. One of the younger men unfurled a rolled document. "The woman was not ours to trade. She remains under tribal law. Return her." Ioni felt her stomach twist. Of course. They had never meant to let her go. She wasn't a person to them. She was a symbol, a warning. And now she was a problem. "She's not property," Harlon said, his voice harder. "And your laws don't reach my land." A young warrior leaned forward on his horse. "If you don't hand her over, we take her." The tension snapped tight, like a rope ready to break. Ioni felt Harlon's body shift beside her, ready to fight. Ready to die for her if it came to that. The thought terrified her more than the riders outside. Ioni stepped forward before he could raise the rifle. "There's another way," she said. Harlon grabbed her arm. "No." But she had already made up her mind. If she ran forever, nothing would change. If she hid, nothing would change. If she stayed silent, other women would remain in chains. 6 of them, maybe more. Women who had whispered to her through the darkness. Women who had cried themselves to sleep in fear. She walked past Harlon and stood in the doorway where everyone could see her. "I'll return," she said. Cyrus's expression shifted to satisfaction. Harlon's voice broke through the air. "You don't have to do this." "I know," she whispered, "but I choose to." Then she raised her voice so the whole tribe could hear. "I'll return to face judgment, but only in front of the entire tribe, a public trial. No chains, no hiding." Cyrus narrowed his eyes. "The council decides the terms." "No," Ioni said. "These are my terms. A public trial or I disappear into this land forever, and you never see me again." Silence fell. Every rider waited, every eye fixed on Cyrus. He had expected fear, but Ioni wasn't afraid anymore. She was choosing her battlefield. Finally, Cyrus spoke. "3 days. The tribe will gather. You will stand trial." Ioni nodded. "Then I will come." Quote. When the riders left, Harlon shut the door with shaking hands. "What did you just do?" he demanded. "They could kill you." "They could," she said softly, "but they've already killed parts of me. I'm going back to face them before they do it to someone else." Harlon's anger faded into understanding. "You're fighting for the others," he said. "I can't leave them behind. I won't." Harlon looked at her with something like respect in his eyes, then something deeper. "Then I'm going with you," he said. "You can't," she argued. "I'm coming," he replied firmly. "You demanded a public trial. That means witnesses. I'll be yours." Her breath caught. She hadn't expected him to care, not like this. "Why?" she asked. Harlon looked at her for a long moment. "Because once, someone I loved needed me to stand up, and I didn't. I won't fail again." Something shifted between them, something quiet, something real. They didn't speak again for a while. They didn't need to. The decision was made. 3 days. 3 days until she faced her past. 3 days until she challenged a system built on fear. 3 days until the world changed one way or another. The journey back to tribal land took half a day. Ioni rode beside Harlon in silence. Her mind focused on every word she planned to speak. Fear sat in her chest like a stone, but she pushed it down. She wasn't returning as a prisoner. She was returning as someone who refused to be hidden anymore. When they reached the final ridge, they saw the entire tribe gathered below. Hundreds of people stood in a wide circle, horses forming a wall behind them. It was a place meant for judgment, a place where voices were raised and fates were sealed. At the center stood Cyrus, waiting as if he already knew the outcome. Harlon's hand drifted toward his rifle. "That's more than I expected." "He wants an audience," Ioni said quietly. "He wants them to see what happens when someone defies him." They rode into the circle. People stared at Ioni with a mix of fear, curiosity, and anger. Some looked ashamed. Some looked hopeful. Others looked ready to see her punished. She dismounted carefully, her legs steady despite the fear twisting inside her. Harlon stepped down with her, staying just behind her shoulder without crowding her. Cyrus lifted his voice. "Ioni has returned to face judgment for crimes against our laws." Ioni stepped forward before he could continue. "Then let's speak of all the laws broken today." A ripple moved through the crowd. No one interrupted her. "I was imprisoned for refusing a marriage. I was chained for saying no. I was punished for choosing my own path." Her voice rose so all could hear. "And I am not the only one." She turned slowly, meeting the eyes of women in the crowd. "There are 6 others still in chains, held for years. Some for refusing marriages, some for speaking against the council, some for teaching their daughters to read." A woman gasped and covered her mouth with trembling hands. Ioni recognized her, Nessa's mother. Cyrus stepped forward. "Our laws." "Your laws," Ioni said sharply. "Laws made by men who wanted control, not justice." The crowd shifted uneasily. She made herself speak the names. "Nessa, Kaya, Liri, Hema, Tessa, Jory." Each name hit the air like a stone. "These women are your family, your friends, your daughters." Cyrus's jaw tightened. "You speak out of bitterness." "I speak out of truth." Ioni met his eyes without fear. "And your wife died in chains for the same reason." The crowd froze. Cyrus's face drained of color. Ioni's voice softened, but didn't waver. "You lost her because she dared to question the council. You swore you would protect this tribe. But instead, you became what destroyed her. An older healer stepped forward, tears in her eyes. She spoke of you before she died. She begged for change. Cyrus stood motionless, like the words had cut into old wounds he had tried to forget. Then Harlon stepped forward. Your laws are hurting more than they're helping. A tribe that breaks its own women cannot stay strong. The arguments rose all around them, some defending tradition, others demanding change. The noise grew until it felt like the air itself was shaking. Then an elder councilman stepped forward, his voice steady. We cannot follow laws that destroy our own people. I vote for reform. Another elder joined him, then another. 3 stayed silent, but 5 votes were enough. The women will be freed, the elder declared, and no woman shall be imprisoned without a trial again. Cyrus closed his eyes. When he opened them, something in him had changed. The laws will be rewritten, he said, and Ioni is free, with no conditions. The crowd erupted, some angry, some relieved, some crying, but the shift was real. The world she had known was changing. Ioni felt Harlon step beside her, not claiming her, not shielding her, standing with her. She stepped closer to Cyrus. The women will need help, healing, support. I know, Cyrus said quietly. I will do my part. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a start. As the crowd dispersed, women approached Ioni, some touching her hands, others crying, others simply nodding in silent gratitude. Harlon leaned close. You did it. We did it, she whispered. 6 months passed. Ioni became someone new, someone whole. She lived between worlds. 3 days with Harlon at the ranch, 4 days teaching the tribe's young women about choice, strength, and the right to speak. The freed women healed slowly. Nessa smiled again for the first time. Kaya relearned her own name. Families reunited. Old wounds began to mend. She and Harlon grew closer, their bond deepening with each quiet moment and each shared night under the stars. Their first kiss came softly, without fear. Their first night together came only when she chose it, when she was ready, when she trusted that he loved her freedom more than he loved her presence. Now, 6 months after the trial, Ioni rode toward the tribe once more. A bridge connected the 2 worlds, literally and symbolically, a bridge she had helped build. A bridge hundreds of women would one day walk across without fear. Cyrus waited near the council grounds. The weight he once carried seemed lighter. He had become a man trying every day to honor the woman he lost. They're ready for you, he said. Ioni nodded. She walked toward the gathering, where girls waited to hear her speak. Girls who would never know the feel of chains because she had broken them. Harlon sat among them, the only outsider invited to witness the new council. Their eyes met, sharing a quiet promise. She had chosen him, but she had also chosen herself. She had chosen to change her world, not escape it. This was the ending no one expected. Not survival, but transformation. Not silence, but strength. Not a runaway, but a leader. And as Ioni stood with the tribe and the man she now loved, she knew something with absolute certainty. Freedom wasn't something given. Freedom was something claimed. And she had claimed hers forever.